Okay, we're recording. Hi, Dave.
Hi.
Well, everyone, welcome back. This is episode 4. And we're just going to keep doing what we've been doing, which is following this biblical pattern of looking back. We look back to look forward. When we're out of words for what's happening in our lives, we find words of hope, words of rescue, words of truth, a truth that is unchangeable. So we're going to look back to look forward today. And we're going to look back on a sermon that Dave did about 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago now. And we're going to pull some of those words that he used. Again, looking back so we can look forward. If you've been... Go ahead.
The reason we thought of it, well, it's actually, this is the last talk I gave at Open Door. The last Sunday I actually preached. And it's a talk I had done before, but it was one of those, so it's like, why do you remember these things? Because they kind of became at pivotal times, and they speak to things that we've been talking about, things that don't move. And so anyway, that's why we were drawn to this. But also we were talking about John on the island of Patmos earlier in discussions. I'm sorry, go ahead. And by the way, I'm chewing gum and I'm snapping my pen, clicking it, because that's become my trademark. I just embraced it. And people complain, I'm going, no, I'm doing this on purpose.
It's part of your brand. You have to be true to your brand.
Okay, go ahead, sorry.
Well, no,
but I digress. Squirrel!
So that's a perfect segue, actually. Set us up. Take us back to this service and set us up for John on Patmos again.
Well, first of all, the whole context and why it's so powerful is because John is in this isolated place. Annika, you were talking about feeling like you're on an island, and I don't want to overdo it, but there's this sense of isolation that he's in, and the people that he wants so desperately to connect with and has always been able to, he can't because of his exile. And he's writing to these churches in Asia Minor who themselves are going through all sorts of horrific things relative, the symbolic weight that they're carrying, and the thing that they're under is Rome. And Rome is real, but symbolically it's their weight. It's that thing that's on them and is kind of threatening them and even their faith and all of those kinds of things. And in this place of isolation, and I'm guessing some desperation, because John just has no... The other thing that I loved about this when I first did it was how isolated, how separate John on the island of Patmos has to feel from the events of Pentecost. I mean, historically, you go... I mean, I was looking at Acts today with a chapter I'm writing, and this, the wind is blowing, the Spirit is landing, everything's exploding. 3,000 come to faith. They come alive spiritually in one day. And, if I'm sitting there, I'm going, we're going to win. We win. This is going to keep spreading, and it does keep spreading. And you kind of feel like, okay, the whole world is going to be done here and come to life. And so with that beginning of euphoria and life just popping up all over the place, I mean, it's fascinating to me how real it is that sometimes in our actual lives, we're in places where the life of God, the wind that blew, that was so fresh and new, and where's that? Where did that go? Because you don't even have a breeze at times. That's exactly some of the imagery. That's part of, again, why, you set the scene this way. And all of a sudden I'm going, okay, I've been on Patmos. I have, and so have you, experienced the wind of God, when you just think, holy moly, what is going on? This is God thing. And then you find yourself in situations, places in life where, well, that's been a while. And, so you start, anyway, we start just blowing fake things on ourselves. That was dumb. I have several more dumb things, but I'm holding them.
Thank you for that.
But here's the other thing. Yeah. Here's the other thing that's in this picture that's amazing in Revelation. So God gives him a vision. He gets this vision. He can't move him. He's not going to take him off of Patmos. He's going to die there in this place of desolation. But he gets to see this vision, and the first thing he sees, the book of Revelation literally means, or all it means is unveiling. It's just an unveiling. And what's unveiled fundamentally is Christ. It's an unveiling of Christ. And so the first thing he sees, we talked a couple of times ago, that he sees this throne in heaven, he sees a door that's open, he sees a lamp. Okay, but the first thing he sees is Jesus. He says that he sees one as the Son of Man, that's Jesus. And one of the points is that he's right in the middle of the churches. These 7 churches of Asia Minor, the picture that is kind of formed that John gets is of Jesus right in the middle of the mess. He's right. He's not an absentee landlord. Whatever it is that we think is going wrong, whatever. And a year ago when I did this talk, or a couple years, whenever it was. The energy was whatever kind of transition open door was going through. Jesus is right in the middle of the mess, and whatever way in which we feel like he's distant, I get the feeling it's okay to have the feeling, but he's in the middle of it all. That's the first thing he sees, and that's an amazing thing to see. But then John goes on, and I was debating with you, Annika, a bit yesterday, because I don't know, not yesterday, but earlier in this, because I don't know how to do this without just kind of reading some of it, and I don't want to get too preachy, but maybe a little, but kind of put it together this way as it kind of comes out of Revelation in the first chapter. This is what he saw. Away from his church, not knowing how they're doing, what he sees is the penetrating, attentive eyes of Christ, tired and weak from his own confinement. He sees the rock-solid, burnished bronze, unshakable feet of his Lord. Accustomed to speaking with authority to his church, but now with no voice at all, he hears the voice of Christ, the Lord of the church, like the sound of a trumpet, verse 10, like the sound of many waters, verse 15, and living at the mercy of Rome's sword. This is cool. He sees the word of God in verse 16 proceeding like a sword from the mouth of Christ, and it comes out of his mouth, not without effect, but the best part of it all was this: he wrote it all down so we could see it too. Snap. he wrote it all down, and so listen and hear what he saw, because the first thing he saw was one like the Son of Man in the middle of it all. Jesus did not ascend to his throne and then exercise authority by remote control. The Lord of the church is with the church. Still. John saw it. We can see it now. But then he sees these other weird things. He sees a belt, and he's clothed with a robe reaching to his feet, girded around his chest a golden sash, which is the garb of a king and a priest. That's significant because in Jesus' priestly function, Jesus is in the church. He's right in the middle of the church. Even if we can't gather there, that's where he is. And he's presenting what he does as a priest. He presents us to God. They're okay, God, and he presents God to us. That's the work of the priest. That's what John sees. And then it gets to this cool part. And his hair was like wool, white as snow. His eyes were like fire, which speaks to two things. The white hair. It doesn't always mean this, but in biblical term symbolism, white is age, and age means wisdom. So his hair was white like wool, which means he knows. It means he knows. And his eyes were like fire, which means he sees. And what he sees, among other things, is that what the churches in Asia Minor are going through right now, that it does not have the power, whatever it is, it does not have the power to establish their identity or to determine their destiny. And that brings me to this favorite talk of mine about my dad. I had my favorite dad talk, and you wanted me to tell this because there's this dad thing going on right now. It's even part of why you wanted me to do this. You want to talk about that at all, just to kind of bring people into that? And it's kind of why I'm telling the story, or no?
Yeah, I mean, it's conversations that you've shared both from the pulpit and from many other places. that you felt like at one point in your ministry that God told you to wear the mantle of a father, and you didn't necessarily feel it at that point, but you said yes to it, and you have spiritually fathered so many people, and I feel like worn that mantle so well, even in times that it didn't feel fitting for you. It has blessed and restored, and that work of God in you has healed so many people. So, and I know that, like you said, sometimes that doesn't necessarily always feel fitting or awkward, but or uncomfortable. But you have recognized that. So to speak to us as your father is, I think, so right. I mean, you are my father-in-law. So that feels right for you and I, but it's beyond just that too.
And I remember that. I mean, that's just a big part of my journey. That father mantle thing came out of the journey, or the sabbatical from hell, believe it or not. Yeah. And I was battling with whether I even stay in the ministry. And I felt like God gave me permission to leave. You don't have to be in the ministry to be involved in kingdom life and work. And, but I didn't want to leave. And so I kind of got rekindled there. But I honestly felt like I got a word that if I was to go back, I'd been at Open Door about 12 years. And the church kind of felt to me like 12 years old, like we were 12 years old, like it was an adolescent thing. And the last thing our church needed at that time was a guy just out of college going, hey, isn't this cool? It needed a dad. And I did not feel like what do I put my hat? I'm the dad. And it wasn't about being in charge. It was about a different kind of energy. And I think one of the reasons it worked for me, the metaphor, because I have a dad. I mean, I have a dad who was like that for me. And so with the help of a spiritual director, the imagery that we came up with was that it was a coat that God was asking me to put on. And if I would just say yes, I'd grow into it. And I think I did eventually. But anyway,
I mean, I'd say so.
That's the energy we're talking about.
Yeah. So will you just hop into sharing your favorite dad story? And
yeah, well, it is. I played football in high school. I played football in college too because I was really good. But honestly, I did.
He's lying. They don't know that.
I played on what may have been the worst varsity football team in the Chicago Public League. I don't think we won a game my senior year, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. But I love football. I loved it. And believe it or not, I played tackle. Now, people who know football know that that's a joke because I'm little, and tackles are usually the biggest guys in the team. But I was about 200 pounds. It's so big deal, but holy cow, that's really small. But I loved it, and I could hit people. I did enjoy doing that. There was this one game. My dad came to all our games, and we really sucked. So hardly anybody came to our games. So I was always able to spot my dad. It was easy. He was the only one there. And we were playing a team called Fenger High School. And the week of that game, in the paper, there was a feature article on the guy who played opposite me. He was a tackle for Fenger High School. 280-pound guy who was getting a free ride to Michigan, and I was going to be against him that day, all day. And so game's going on, and we're playing at this field. I can still see it in my mind's eye, and I can see my dad is there, and because nobody else was, and I could see him, and he was right at the top of the stands. I'm not making this part up. And he just followed the line of scrimmage the whole game. And connecting to this passage, his hair was white, which means he was old. He was my dad. His hair was white, but it meant he knew, and his eyes were blazing like fire, which meant he saw. And he saw every play, and he saw me get pounded, and he saw me get tired, and he knew that I'd be discouraged, and he knew that I would want to quit because he was the Ancient of Days. He's very wise. He had a word of knowledge. Dave's going to really, really be tired. But he did. He followed the whole game, and at the end of the game, it was good for me to know that he knew what I had gone through. It was good for me to know that he saw what had happened. It was also important, in fact, even in the analogy with John on the island of Patmos. My dad watched me get pounded, but he never got out of the stands to get me out of the game. Now, I wouldn't have wanted that, but sometimes I think we want to just get out of the game. And he doesn't do that. God doesn't do that. That's not the gift John got from the vision of Christ. It's not the gift I got from my dad. The gift was this: I see you, open door, you, whoever is out there listening to this, and I know, and here's what I know that what you're going through right now does not have the power to determine your identity, establish your identity, or determine your destiny. And it's just good to know this doesn't have that kind of power. And what I liked about the image, both of my dad in the stands and this picture of John, is the presence, the knowing. Usually when I was growing up, we were told that God's eye is on us. That wasn't always a comforting thought. It is now to me. The fact that he knows it is. When I was a kid, it was like he's watching. Watch somebody else, because I'm going to screw around for a while anyways. But there's incredible strength in that and comfort in that, I think. I hope. That's the story. Whatever.
I mean, I don't even know how to seal up something like that. I'm a little verklempt myself hearing all of that. Verklempt.
Oh. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for seeing what's happening. But thank you more for continuing to speak that truth, that of what we do have.
Yeah.
That we have a Father in heaven who sees.
Mm-hmm. And he knows.
Mm-hmm. And that all of this, whatever this is for the people that are watching, whatever this is for me and whatever this is for you, that it doesn't define. Even the ending of this, wherever we end up, does not define who we are.
Or determine destiny. Define identity, determine destiny. No power. It doesn't have any power to do that. None. Can kill you.
Thanks for that brevity.
And the picture of Jesus in the middle of the mess. So anyway, helping us through. The only way out is through. Here we go again.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Leave us some comments and tell us what you're thinking about. Maybe tell us what mess Jesus is in the middle of in your life and how you're finding your way through. All right.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.